Emily had always believed that true friendship was one of life's greatest blessings. Since childhood, she and Sarah had been inseparable. They shared birthdays, dreams, secrets, heartbreaks, and every important milestone together. Everyone who knew them called them sisters instead of friends because they seemed impossible to separate. Emily trusted Sarah more than anyone else in the world. She never imagined that the person she loved like family would one day become the reason her entire life fell apart. Life seemed perfect when Emily met Daniel at a charity event in New York. Daniel was kind, intelligent, hardworking, and had a warm smile that instantly made people feel comfortable. Their first conversation lasted nearly 3 hours, and by the end of the evening, both knew they wanted to see each other again. Their relationship grew stronger with every passing month. Daniel admired Emily's honesty and gentle heart, while Emily loved the way Daniel supported her dreams and encouraged her to become the best version of herself. Naturally, Emily introduced Daniel to Sarah. She wanted the two most important people in her life to know each other. Sarah smiled warmly, hugged Daniel, and joked that she finally approved of one of Emily's boyfriends. They all laughed together, unaware that this moment would become the beginning of an unforgettable betrayal. Months passed, and the three spent more and more time together. Weekend dinners became routine. Road trips created beautiful memories. Holiday celebrations were filled with laughter, photographs, and promises that they would always remain close friends. Emily often thanked God for blessing her with both an amazing boyfriend and an incredible best friend. But while Emily saw friendship, Sarah saw opportunity. Secretly, Sarah became jealous of everything Emily had. She envied Emily's successful career, her loving relationship, and the happiness that seemed to follow her everywhere. Every compliment Emily received felt like an insult to Sarah's own insecurities. Instead of celebrating her friend's success, bitterness slowly began taking over her heart. Sarah started sending Daniel harmless-looking text messages. At first they were simple conversations about birthday surprises, gift ideas, or asking for advice. Daniel thought nothing of it. After all, Sarah was Emily's closest friend. Soon the conversations became longer. Sarah would text Daniel late at night, complaining about how lonely she felt and how difficult life had become. Daniel listened politely because he believed he was simply helping a friend. One evening Sarah thanked him by saying, "Emily is lucky to have someone like you." Daniel smiled politely and replied, "I'm the lucky one." Sarah stared at the message for several minutes. She realized Daniel truly loved Emily. Instead of respecting that love, she became determined to change it. Over the following weeks, Sarah carefully manipulated every situation. Whenever Emily was busy at work, Sarah invited Daniel to help plan surprise dates or birthday gifts. Whenever Daniel and Emily had small disagreements, Sarah quietly encouraged the misunderstandings instead of helping solve them. Emily never noticed. She trusted Sarah completely. One rainy afternoon Emily arrived at Sarah's apartment unexpectedly, hoping to surprise her with coffee and dessert after work. Sarah wasn't home. Thinking nothing of it, Emily left the treats at the front door and walked away. Across town, Sarah was having dinner with Daniel. Daniel believed they were discussing Emily's upcoming birthday celebration. Sarah had deliberately chosen a romantic restaurant, pretending it was the only place with available reservations. As candles flickered across the table, strangers assumed they were a couple. Sarah didn't correct anyone. Instead, she smiled. Daniel felt slightly uncomfortable but ignored it, believing appearances meant nothing. What he didn't know was that Sarah had secretly asked a waiter to photograph them together. The next morning she posted one of the pictures on social media with a vague caption. "Sometimes the people who understand you best arrive when you least expect them." Within hours, mutual friends began gossiping. Emily noticed the photo but trusted both of them enough not to question it. When she asked Sarah about dinner, Sarah laughed and explained they had only been planning Emily's birthday surprise. Emily apologized for even wondering. Sarah hugged her tightly, hiding a satisfied smile. The lies continued growing. Sarah began telling Daniel that Emily often complained about him behind his back. At the same time, she whispered to Emily that Daniel seemed distant and distracted lately. Tiny doubts slowly turned into emotional distance. Phone calls became shorter. Date nights became less frequent. Arguments appeared over things that once seemed insignificant. Neither Emily nor Daniel realized someone was quietly pulling the strings behind the scenes. One evening Daniel surprised Emily with flowers after work, hoping to reconnect. Before he could knock on her apartment door, Sarah called Emily in tears. She claimed she had been in a minor accident and desperately needed help. Without hesitation, Emily rushed across the city. Daniel waited outside for almost an hour before finally leaving, believing Emily had forgotten about him. Sarah hadn't been in any accident. She had invented the entire story. Every successful relationship, Sarah believed, could be destroyed if enough misunderstandings were planted. Weeks later Daniel began noticing inconsistencies in Sarah's stories. Something didn't feel right. Whenever he mentioned conversations Sarah claimed she'd had with Emily, Emily looked completely confused. Whenever Emily repeated things Sarah said Daniel had supposedly admitted, Daniel denied every word. Slowly, pieces of the puzzle began coming together. But before either of them could discover the truth, Sarah made her boldest move yet. She invited Daniel to a luxury hotel under the excuse that Emily was preparing a surprise engagement celebration there. Trusting her once again, Daniel arrived. Instead of Emily, only Sarah was waiting. She looked elegant, confident, and strangely nervous. After several moments of silence, Sarah looked directly into Daniel's eyes. "There is something I've wanted to tell you for a very long time," she whispered. Daniel frowned, sensing that whatever came next would change all of their lives forever. Daniel's expression turned serious as he looked at Sarah across the table. The elegant hotel lounge suddenly felt cold and uncomfortable. "What is it?" he asked quietly. Sarah took a deep breath, forcing tears into her eyes. "I love you, Daniel." For a moment, everything stood still. Daniel blinked in disbelief, convinced he had misunderstood her. "What did you just say?" "I've loved you for months," Sarah admitted. "I tried to ignore it, but I can't anymore. Emily doesn't appreciate you the way I do. I would never hurt you the way she has." Daniel immediately stood up. "Sarah, stop. Emily is the woman I love. She's your best friend." Sarah reached for his hand, but he pulled it away. "You only think you love her because you don't know the truth," Sarah said. "Emily has been planning to leave you. She told me she isn't sure about your future together." Daniel shook his head. "No. Emily would tell me herself." Sarah sighed dramatically. "I was hoping you'd never have to find out this way." She opened her phone and showed Daniel several screenshots that appeared to be messages from Emily. In them, Emily complained about Daniel, called him boring, and even joked about ending the relationship after receiving an expensive engagement ring. Daniel stared at the screen. His heart sank. The messages looked real. What he didn't know was that Sarah had carefully edited every screenshot using a photo editing app. Without saying another word, Daniel walked away. Sarah smiled to herself. She believed she had finally won. That same evening, Emily excitedly arrived at Daniel's apartment carrying homemade dinner and a small gift. She had planned a romantic evening to surprise him. Instead of greeting her with a smile, Daniel looked distant. "We need to talk," he said. Emily immediately sensed something was wrong. Daniel asked, "Have you been unhappy with me?" Emily looked confused. "What are you talking about? Have you been telling Sarah that I'm boring? That you're planning to leave me?" Emily's face turned pale. "What? Of course not." Daniel showed her the screenshots. Emily felt her hands begin to shake. "I never sent these. They came from your account. They're fake." The conversation quickly turned into an emotional argument. For the first time since they met, neither of them knew who to believe. Emily couldn't understand why Daniel trusted screenshots over her words. Daniel couldn't understand why the evidence looked so convincing. They separated that night with broken hearts. Watching from a distance, Sarah felt victorious. Over the next several weeks, Emily's world slowly collapsed. She couldn't concentrate at work. She stopped answering friends' phone calls. She cried herself to sleep almost every night, replaying every conversation in her mind, wondering where everything had gone wrong. Daniel wasn't doing any better. He missed Emily constantly. Every restaurant reminded him of her. Every song brought back memories. Deep inside, something kept telling him that Emily wasn't lying. Meanwhile, Sarah moved closer to Daniel. She offered emotional support. She brought him coffee at work. She encouraged him to move on. Although Daniel appreciated the kindness, his heart remained with Emily. One afternoon, something unexpected happened. Daniel accidentally left his phone on his office desk while attending a meeting. Sarah stopped by his office to leave lunch. Seeing the unattended phone, she couldn't resist. She unlocked it using the passcode she had secretly memorized months earlier. Then she deleted several unread messages from Emily before quietly walking away. Unfortunately for Sarah, she didn't realize someone had witnessed everything. Daniel's co-worker, Michael, had returned to grab forgotten documents. He clearly saw Sarah using Daniel's phone. Although he found it strange, he decided not to interfere. Later that evening Daniel mentioned he hadn't heard from Emily in weeks. Michael frowned. "That's impossible," he replied. "What do you mean?" "I literally watched Sarah using your phone earlier today." Daniel froze. "My phone?" "Yeah. I assumed you asked her to." Daniel immediately checked his deleted message folder. Nothing was there. Still feeling uneasy, he contacted his phone provider and requested a record of incoming messages. The report showed dozens of text messages from Emily that had never reached him. Someone had deleted them. At the same time, Emily experienced her own shocking discovery. She visited a local cafe where she and Sarah used to spend weekends together. The owner recognized her immediately. "It's nice to see you again," the elderly woman smiled. Emily forced a smile. "I haven't been here in months." The woman looked surprised. "But your boyfriend and your friend were here together just last week." Emily's heart skipped a beat. "My boyfriend? Daniel." The owner even pointed toward the table where they usually sat. Emily thanked her politely before walking outside. Her hands trembled. Nothing made sense anymore. Instead of assuming the worst, she finally decided to search for answers. That night she reviewed months of old messages. She noticed something unusual. Almost every major misunderstanding between her and Daniel happened shortly after Sarah had spoken with one of them. It couldn't be a coincidence. The next morning Emily contacted Daniel. He answered after several rings. There was a long silence. Finally Emily whispered, "I think we've both been lied to." Daniel closed his eyes. "I was just about to call you." For the first time in weeks, they spoke honestly. They compared every conversation, every argument, every suspicious message. The truth slowly began revealing itself. Every road led back to one person. Sarah. Neither of them wanted to believe it. She had been part of their lives for years. She knew every secret. Every weakness. Every fear. And somehow she had used all of them against the people who loved her most. Together they decided not to confront her immediately. Instead, they wanted undeniable proof. If Sarah had spent months manipulating them, they needed evidence she couldn't deny. They quietly created a plan. A plan that would expose the truth once and for all, and force Sarah to face the consequences of the betrayal she never thought anyone would uncover. Emily and Daniel agreed on one important rule before moving forward. They would not let anger control their actions. Sarah had already destroyed enough of their lives through lies and manipulation. If they wanted the truth, they needed patience. Over the next few days, they acted as if nothing had changed. Emily avoided confronting Sarah, while Daniel continued responding politely to her messages. Sarah believed her plan had succeeded. She was convinced Emily and Daniel would never trust each other again. Feeling more confident than ever, Sarah became careless. Daniel sent Sarah a message saying he had finally accepted that his relationship with Emily was over. He thanked Sarah for always being there and suggested they meet to talk privately. Exactly as they expected, Sarah agreed immediately. Before the meeting, Daniel turned on the voice recorder on his phone. Emily and Michael waited nearby, hoping the truth would finally come to light. Sarah arrived wearing a bright smile. "I knew you'd realize Emily wasn't right for you," she said as she sat down. Daniel remained calm. "You were right about many things," he replied carefully. "But I still don't understand how everything happened." Sarah leaned forward. "It happened because I made it happen." Daniel's heart raced, but he kept his expression neutral. "What do you mean?" Sarah laughed softly. "Emily trusted me with everything. That made it easy. A few fake screenshots here, a few lies there, deleting a couple of messages, people believe what they want to believe." Daniel felt a wave of disbelief. "So, you planned all of it?" "Of course," Sarah answered proudly. "Do you think you would have left Emily on your own?" "I had to help things along." "And the hotel?" "I knew she'd never show up." "I only wanted you alone." Daniel asked one final question. "Did you ever care about Emily?" For the first time, Sarah's smile disappeared. "I cared about winning." Those 5 words were all they needed. Emily stepped out from behind the nearby wall. "So that's how little our friendship meant to you." Sarah's face turned white. She looked from Emily to Daniel, then noticed Michael standing beside them. You heard everything." Daniel quietly held up his phone. "Every single word." Sarah desperately tried to explain. "I didn't mean it like that." But the excuses sounded empty. Emily's eyes filled with tears. "I defended you when everyone doubted you. I trusted you more than my own family. I shared every dream, every fear, every secret with you." Sarah lowered her head. "I was jealous." Emily nodded sadly. "I know. Every time something good happened to you," Sarah admitted, "I felt like life was reminding me of everything I didn't have. Instead of fixing myself, I tried to destroy your happiness." Emily couldn't hold back her tears. "You didn't just destroy my happiness. You destroyed years of friendship." People nearby had started noticing the emotional confrontation. Sarah realized there was no escape. Within days, the truth spread through their circle of friends. The fake screenshots were examined and proven to be edited. Phone records confirmed deleted messages. Michael's statement supported Daniel's account. Everyone finally understood what had really happened. Sarah lost the trust of nearly everyone who had once stood beside her. No one wanted revenge. The consequences of her own actions were enough. Meanwhile, Emily and Daniel faced a different challenge. Although the truth had been revealed, the pain didn't disappear overnight. Months of doubt, arguments, and broken trust had left deep emotional scars. One evening Daniel invited Emily to walk through the same park where they had shared their first date. The sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and orange. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. Finally Daniel broke the silence. "I'm sorry." Emily looked at him. "I should have trusted you." Emily smiled sadly. "I should have trusted us." Daniel reached into his jacket pocket. Instead of an engagement ring, he pulled out a small photo. It was taken during their very first road trip together. Both of them were laughing, completely unaware of what the future would bring. I kept this because it reminds me of who we really are, Daniel said. Emily held the picture gently. We can't erase what happened. No, Daniel replied. But we can choose what happens next. Slowly, Emily took his hand. Forgiveness wasn't instant. Trust wasn't magically restored. But they decided to rebuild their relationship one honest conversation at a time. Over the following year, they focused on healing instead of blaming. They attended counseling together. They learned to communicate openly. Whenever misunderstandings appeared, they talked directly instead of listening to rumors. Their relationship became stronger than it had ever been before because it was now built on honesty rather than assumptions. One beautiful spring afternoon, Daniel returned to the same charity event where they had first met. This time he carried a small velvet box. Looking into Emily's eyes, he smiled. The last time we stood here, we began our story. Emily smiled through happy tears. And today? Today I want to begin the rest of our lives. Daniel knelt on one knee. Emily, will you marry me? Without hesitation, she whispered the word he had dreamed of hearing. Yes. The crowd around them erupted into applause. Tears filled Emily's eyes as Daniel placed the ring on her finger. This time there were no lies. No manipulation. No hidden agendas. Only truth. Months later, family and friends gathered to celebrate their wedding. During the reception, Emily raised her glass for a short toast. There was a time when I believed betrayal would define my life. I thought losing the people I trusted most meant I would never be happy again. But I learned something important. Someone else's betrayal does not have to become your future. Honest people still exist. Real love still exists. True happiness returns when you refuse to let bitterness control your heart. Everyone applauded. Daniel smiled proudly beside her. As they shared their first dance as husband and wife, Emily realized that Sarah had stolen many things from her, but she had failed to steal the one thing that mattered most. Hope. Because hope had led her back to truth. Truth had led her back to love. And love, built on honesty and trust, proved stronger than betrayal could ever be. Sometimes the deepest wounds are caused by the people we trust the most. But even the darkest betrayal cannot defeat a heart that chooses forgiveness, wisdom, and the courage to begin again. In the end, lies always collapse under the weight of the truth, while genuine love finds its way back home.